Hello everybody, my name is Ilse and this is hobbykr, the channel where I make videos about anime events and culture, mostly in South Korea. Today I'm finally bringing you the second video in my This is Korean Anime series. I started this ages ago with Flowering Heart and I've been meaning to continue, but I just didn't have inspiration or time to do a more like scripted video, so here I am finally. Today we're gonna be talking about Shinbi Apartment, or it's also known as the Haunted House in its English localization, but in Korean it's called Shinbi Apartment. So I think that sounds a little bit cooler than the Haunted House, because it's not even a haunted house, it's a haunted apartment. I just wanted to say this as a disclaimer. I will be referring to the series as anime in this video, but I am aware that Korean anime is technically called any, not anime, short for animation, but I think that people understand what I mean more if I say anime rather than any, and a lot of people don't even know what any is, so I'll be referring to it as anime, but yes, I know it's technically any. So Shinbi Apartment is available on Netflix as The Haunted House. As when I was doing research for the video, I was reading people's comments and it seems to be popular among some kids, but I don't think it has like any special status as like important anime in most people's minds. However, in Korea, it is very popular. I mean, it is popular amongst kids, but it is like a well-known cartoon, any. But I wanted to talk about it in terms of like how it fits in the larger scope of the anime universe, including Japanese anime. Shinbi Apartment was animated by Studio Eek and it's owned by CJ Entertainment. CJ Entertainment is one of the largest entertainment companies in Korea, so it's definitely not like a small studio project. I mean, the studio itself might be small, but the company that distributes it is definitely not. Studio Eek has done other work in mostly like game promotional videos, and their stuff looks really cool. When I saw their portfolio, I guess, on their website, they do have some really nice looking stuff, but as far as I know, Shinbi Apartment is like their biggest show, not like a preview or a short film or anything. The show airs in Korea in a channel called Tooniverse, which is one of the biggest cartoon channels here in Korea, and they also show anime, like Japanese anime, in that channel as well, although not that much. They mostly show Korean projects. In its truest essence, I think Shinbi Apartment is like an anime meant to sell stuff to kids, so pretty much follows the formula of most popular children's TV in Japan, which also are fully equipped, although they're very nice and they have good stories, they're fully equipped with like all the merch you could ever imagine in your life. So yes, it's definitely one of those shows where like it's made for selling stuff to children rather than focusing on like the story and the production value. So what is Shinbi Apartment about? So it's the story of two siblings, Hari and Duri, and they live in this apartment complex that is haunted. And because of certain circumstances, they gain powers of being able to see ghosts, and now they kind of become ghost hunters. Hari is like very sassy. She's definitely not like a passive heroine. She's very sassy. She always hates on Duri, who is like, he kind of fulfills the role of like a scaredy cat, I guess. And they have that kind of like dynamic where they kind of tease each other, but at the end of the day, Hari is always like ready to protect Duri, who's kind of useless, honestly, and Hari is very heroic, but she is very, very sassy. So the reason why the show is called Shinbi Apartment is because in their apartment complex there is a small goblin creature called Shinbi, and it is because of Shinbi that they gain their powers to be able to see ghosts. So technically it's Shinbi's apartment, get it? Well, it's mostly like the apartment where Shinbi lives, but yes, Shinbi is the goblin that gives Hari and Duri their powers, and he also helps them with hunting ghosts. Shinbi kind of has like a really bad temper. He fulfills the role of like I guess he's kind of like Kero in Cardcaptor Sakura, but more negative. I feel like Kero really loves Sakura, but in this case, I feel like he doesn't really like Hari and Duri very much. So he's very like antagonistic and kind of like angry, but I guess it's a little bit of comic relief, I guess. But yeah, he's an interesting character to say the least. He's definitely not like your typical Genki mascot or anything. One thing I love about the apartment is that Hari and Dori live in apartment 444. If you didn't know, number 4 is considered an unlucky number in Korea. Some buildings even skip the number on the elevator buttons. So the fact that they live in apartment 444, which is like the equivalent of living in apartment 666, is like very funny to me. So basically, Shinbi gives Hari and Dori this thing called a ghost ball, which is where the sales come in. It's like a Power Rangers type thing or a Ben 10 type thing, where they store ghost orbs, which they get whenever they defeat, more like help, a ghost. And once they have a ghost orb, they can use it later to fight other ghosts, a la Cardcaptor Sakura, where she uses a different card every episode. So yes, very formulaic kind of model of the anime, and this is all explained to you in literally the first episode. So I'm not talking about like great character development here, it's all exposition. But still, I feel like I've been hating on it so far. I have good opinions about it. I'm just saying that like it's very formulaic in that sense. With the ghost ball, they can also summon Shinbi himself. So yeah, the ghost ball hosts both the ghost orbs and Shinbi, who I guess lives in there like a Pokeball type situation, even though he also lives in the apartment and he can teleport at will. So I guess he could live in like the 4 seasons if he wanted, but he chooses to live in like the Shinbi apartment. I guess he's tied to the apartment. So basically, in each episode, they encounter a new ghost, and at first the ghost is like wreaking havoc in society, and then Hari and Dori and other characters that they meet along the way, they do form like a little gang. They go and try to help the ghost. So it's definitely not like a sense of trying to like kill the ghost, it's more like trying to help the ghost. Because Hari always gets like a vision whenever she confronts the ghosts, and she sees the reason why they became ghosts. And let me tell you, this show is morbid. Like, I would have been terrified to watch this when I was a kid. I was deathly terrified of Courage the Cowardly Dog, if you guys know that cartoon. I feel like this anime would have scared the crap out of me, and I mention that because it is aimed towards children, so I would have been very scared. But just to give you an idea, the first ghosts that she encounters died because they drowned in a water tank. And in the second episode, the ghost that they encountered died by falling off like a bridge on top of a highway. So yeah, it's like not cute. It's not like, oh, they show you the death too. So I mean, I guess this is a very interesting aspect. It definitely does serve for the horror, because this is considered like a horror animation. But yeah, it's very morbid. So basically, Hari and friends get to know the backstory of the ghost, and this is meant to give you kind of like a more story behind the deaths, and that way like the kids watching don't have to be like, kill that ghost, stupid ghost. It's more like a, oh, that sucks, they really died in terrible circumstances. I'm glad Hari is helping them. The show, although formulaic in the ways that I just described, in the sense that it is made for merch, the characters are very meh, and the episodes follow the same formula episode after episode, it's very entertaining. Like truly, if this was on TV, I would watch it. When I was doing research for this, I did watch like a number of episodes, and for Flowering Heart, for example, I couldn't really stomach watching like many episodes because it's just a little too, I don't know, superficial for me. But this is really entertaining. I think they have some good moments. I definitely wouldn't be like, this is amazing, like Hunter x Hunter level, but it's like a good anime. I think the stories are good, and I think it has more depth than a regular kids TV show. So I think it's a good option for children, as long as they're not deathly terrified of like the morbid stories, which I would caution parents against. I do think that it's a little bit, so the characters in the show are 12, and I do think it's aimed towards like a 10-year-old kind of audience. Personally, I would have been very scared watching that, but I guess that falls at the discretion of each parent. The only thing that is a shame of the show is I feel that they finish the stories off very quickly, because they do have to kind of like keep things going in the episodes. Everything gets resolved in quite a simple way. There's not much like depth of interaction between the characters, which is a shame, but I understand that, you know, it's not meant to be like very serious, and it's not centered on character development, so I do understand that aspect. It's just a shame because I do feel that the episodes feel a little rushed. The animation itself has some good moments, but it's mostly very mediocre. There are very funny moments a la Dramatical Murder. I will never get tired of mentioning Dramatical Murder as a reference for these things. But yeah, there are moments where the animation looks terrible, but I guess that happens with every single anime, even like the most high quality ones. So it's not something that I faulted for, but if you're looking at watching this show for its animation, don't. It's really not worth much in that sense. The character design itself as well is something that I really dislike. I like Shinbi. I think Shinbi is a good mascot and he's very cute in his design and very original, but Hari and Duri are just plain not cute, let me say that. I just think that the characters are so uninspired and generic. Yeah, their hairstyles I hate. I think in terms of character design, I don't feel inspired. And I do think that that's different from other children-centric animes, like Precure, for example. I think like Precure is definitely like an anime made for selling stuff to children, but it's beautiful. Like the character design is so cool, original, nice. I think Magical Doremi is also something like that. The character design is very unique. I wouldn't say Doremi is like made for selling stuff as much as other shows, but that's what I'm saying, like television aimed at children. I think that the character design is very generic and remedial. The voice acting is what you would expect from a children's show. I think it's good quality both in Korean and English, but I think in Korean the kids sound too childish, which like makes sense because Hari is meant to be 12 and I'm assuming Duri is meant to be like 10, or yeah, 10. But they do sound a little bit too childish, and I think Korean voice acting just really relies on the very like high-pitched voice, which is also something that happens in anime, referencing maybe like Sakura again from Cardcaptor Sakura, and even like Usagi from Sailor Moon. They have like extremely high-pitched voices, but it's just it really bothers me after a while listening to it in Korean. And although I consider myself an English dub snob, I hate English dubs. Like you will never catch me watching an English dub. I'd sooner watch a series without subtitles than watch the English dub. I think that the English dub for this is good. The voice acting is good, I think the emotion is good, and I think that the characters sound a little bit more mature than in the Korean version, so that's what I liked. I find the voices way less jarring, and I think they did a really good job translating like the Koreanisms into English. So yeah, I think the voice acting in both is good, but definitely my recommendation would be watching the English dub rather than the Korean with subtitles, just because I really don't think that the Korean voices are pleasant to listen to over a long period of time. The show is very popular in Korea. Like I mentioned before, you will definitely find a lot of toys for it in toy stores, and what I mostly see is like comic books, but it's not like they have manga. It's like in Korea they sell these comic books that are like really thick and like big, and they're full color, and they're kind of educational. They're meant to be educational, so I will try to insert a picture of that here, but I see a lot of those kinds of books with Shinbi Apartment on them, and they have movies as well. Like when the movie came out, I think a movie came out last year for it, and I saw a lot of publicity for it. I saw that it did fairly well in like movie charts in Korea, so it definitely has like a relatively large empire for the franchise in Korea. Again, it's not like it has like a cult following of people who would follow, for example, Sailor Moon. Like I don't think it has like an adult fan base that likes it, but in terms of like its scope towards children who are its target audience, I think it does very well. So my intention with these videos is always to relate back to the Korean animation industry, which I've always said in my videos that I think has incredible promise to be creating like relevant, big productions, not just smaller, more childish productions like Flowering Heart and Shinbi Apartment. But I do think that this anime, as opposed to Flowering Heart, which I think is completely like generic, and if it didn't exist, like no one would miss it. Sorry, Flowering Heart. I do think that Shinbi has a little bit more soul. I think that it would be super cool for it to have a bigger budget in terms of animation. Like if it had nicer animation and the stories developed themselves along more time, I think it could be a really amazing show. I really think that it's very interesting, it's very well executed, the voice acting is good, and I do think it's like a good show of a more lengthy, high quality, mainstream production of Korean anime. So I think if you're curious about watching Korean anime, I definitely encourage you to check out Shinbi Apartment. Like I mentioned, I think only the first season is available in Netflix, but honestly, like it's all pretty much the same, so you might as well just watch the first season. So yeah, if you're curious about Korean anime, please check out Shinbi Apartment, because I think it ticks a lot of boxes and it is like a good production, and I had a good time watching it, so I highly recommend that you do check it out. I hope you enjoyed this episode of This is Korean Anime. I hope to bring back the series sooner with a new episode. I think I will, because I have to work from home again, so I have more time to do stuff after work. Corona is kind of back to being kind of bad in Korea, so we're all stuck at home. Well, I'm stuck at home, so I can dedicate a bit more time to videos like these. Let me know if you have watched Shinbi Apartment or The Haunted House down in the comments below. Let me know what you think if you check out a trailer or something, and let me know what your hopes are for Korean anime in the future. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.